Okay, are you ready, Matt?
We're ready. So we just pushed record and we'll be publishing this for the rest of the class's benefit. I'd like to welcome with us today Clancy Stone from the Women's Business Center of Utah. We have a long partnership with the Women's Business Center of Utah. That makes it sound over official, but an informal, informal friendship with the WBC. We've had them as guest presenters and speakers almost every semester for the last 10 years. It goes a long ways back that way. So we've always appreciated that. Also, given the high proportion of women in my class, being right next door to the Women's Business Center is an awesome resource. And so something I'm always trying to point my students to, because as you'll learn from Clancy, they're nonprofit, they're here to serve you, they're here to help you, and most of their services, if not all, are free. So really good to have you here, Clancy, and I'll let you kind of just take it from here. Thanks for being with us and making time today.
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you, Matt. So like he said, I'm Clancy Stone. I'm the business advisor at the Women's Business Center of Utah. We are a 501c3, so a big portion of our money comes from the SBA, which allows my services and other services to be free. I wish I knew about it when I had started my business, because there's support elements like lawyers and CPAs that have donated their time to our clients, but we don't advertise it. And so you can have client agreements, partnership agreements, whatever you need reviewed and questions asked, so you're not nickeled and dimed from these people. And there goes my dog again. So it's a really great resource, but most of all is we're tapped into so many other partnerships that there are so many things the state offers for small business owners in distribution and trade and all of that, and grants that come up all the time that aren't advertised or you can't find them. So working with us and others is a real good arena to touch base, especially if you're considering any portion of business to be involved in. So I really recommend it, and not because I work there, but because it's really one of the best hidden secrets out there for female entrepreneurs, especially because we live in a very patriarchal state still. And so a lot of times women go to these male advisors. He's not like that, he's one of the exceptional ones.
With you though, Clancy. Yeah.
And so they will try to tell them, the direction they should go, not understanding or hearing them. And so it can be frustrating for women when they're not only pitching their business ideas, but then when they go and ask for funding. And so we still get less money than men, and it's frustrating. So the Women's Business Center exists so we can help navigate you to the right financial audiences to help you reach your goals, and to help you understand, what's attainable at this time and what maybe different points of starting for you versus trying to, do your whole big picture of your business all at once. So with that, I put together just a little presentation. I'm going to try to, I've never shared my screen on Zoom. This is so funny. I use Zoom all the time, but I'm on it, right? Not facilitating. So I'm going to share my screen and then I'm going to go to my PowerPoint. Let's see if this works.
While you're doing that, I'll say too, I really do feel like many people charging not realizing how much help is for free right there in our little downtown community or in satellite centers, and they just neglect the opportunity for free help or free, financial assistance or free legal advice and things like that. So I'm glad, that's, I guess, one of the big things we want to try to do in pointing out what you guys offer.
Yeah, it's pretty much I like to think of it that the business and Women's Business Center provides really a customized experience for all of our clients that come there. Everyone's at different stages of their business, but with all the expertise on staff, we really can customize what you need. And if we don't have an answer, we have a partner that can have an answer or have the resources. And a lot of times they're at no cost to you. So can you guys see my screen now?
Can.
All right, this is super positive. So starting a business during COVID-19, Matt wanted me to touch on some of these things of what's kind of currently happening here in the state for small business owners, and as business owners or entrepreneurs for you, some conversations or questions or points that you should think about entering business. this says, it is not mad. I believe it's not mad to start a business during this time. Actually, I think it's for people who aren't in the business that they're interested in pursuing. It's a blessing because you're going to be forced with things and you might implement steps that you never would have before that could wipe out your business in the future. So I'm sure you've heard a lot about right now, everything's COVID-19, and the federal government has extended some support to small business owners. And if you've heard of the CARES Act, this came about 2.5 weeks ago. It was approved from our federal government. And this is the breakdown of how the $2 trillion breaks down. And the area we're going to focus on is small business. So small businesses received $377 billion. And that $377 billion is already gone. And so a lot of businesses got in the queue, applied for this loan before anybody really understood what it was about. Frustrating times that happened was the federal government passed the CARES Act, which was a blessing in disguise for so many reasons. One, in the past, majority of small businesses are one person. There might be a sole proprietorship, an LLC, however they set their business license, but it's only them, and they've never been allowed to apply for unemployment. So the CARE Act opened it up for the first time for them to be able to apply for unemployment. But unfortunately, the majority of small businesses that qualify for this support are not the majority of our business owners here in Utah. So on Tuesday, like I said, the $350 billion is already gone, but only 7% of small business owners actually got a portion of that.
Why was that?
Why is that? No, that's the right question, Matt. What happened is certain financial institutions were given the go-ahead to start moving people through the loan process and all of that. And they would look at your business and a percentage of your business. And what happened is out of that money, instead of looking at the needs of the business to keep the lights on and the business is moving forward, some businesses got anywhere from $250,000 and up. And so large amounts of money were allocated to a small percentage of businesses, which, it really took away anybody's opportunity to receive that. I believe today Congress passed another bill to fuse the CARE Act again with billions and billions of dollars. I think it's another $350 billion. I could be wrong on that number though. But and so they're hoping to get that to the people that are in the queue right now for the SBA loans and for the PPP loans. But so with the loans that are out there, originally what happened was, and this is like a kind of a history lesson, so if it's boring, I apologize, just stop me. But what happened was when the federal government passed the CARE Act, they said you need to go to the SBA first and file online your loan. That's the only way you could do it. However, the SBA's system couldn't handle the amount of applications that came, so it crashed. I had clients that were on it for like 6 to 7 hours trying to get the application filled out. And a lot of people, when the system crashed, none of their applications saved. So it was very frustrating for a small business owner. So then what happened was the federal government said, we apologize for the inconvenience. What we're going to do is throw a $10,000 grant out there. It's a forgivable loan. Anybody that applies for it pretty much will get it. And you just can only use it for operational expenses. Well, that dried up really quickly, but the obstacle for that with small business owners was only a small percentages of banks could help with what's called the PPP. And then the SBA sent out requirements, like general requirements for people to follow, but unfortunately banks started putting their own rules and regulations on top of that. So if you were a new client to the bank, they wouldn't service you. If you had no loans currently open with that bank, they wouldn't help you apply for it. Some only sent support to certain business entities. And so what we're finding is, like historically, if you look back historically, now for some of you, when the recession hit in 2009, you're probably like 5. And so, or maybe not even born. And so why I bring the recession up is because 86% of all businesses that were small businesses bootstrapped or put up their homes for their business, put it on credit cards, whatever it was to get it started. So when the recession hit, a lot of people lost their homes and their whole financial savings. But why that's so important is because a lot of these populations that were impacted by this, they had built up wealth, generational wealth over time. And so when the recession hit, it just didn't impact, their home. It impacted all of their future generations of their family to be in poverty. And unfortunately, the biggest groups and populations that this has impacted is the African Americans and the Latinos. So now fast forward, here we are in 2020, COVID-19, first pandemic, and first time the SBA has ever opened up, or the federal government has ever opened up the EIDL, was it the Economic Disaster Relief Loan for businesses under a pandemic. It's only been for hurricanes or natural disasters. And why this is such another layer of what this means for us economically is in 2009, when we had the recession, we didn't have a pandemic, and it really impacted people who had leveraged everything financially. But now we have a pandemic, so we have financial, the world's on pause right now. So we have financial uncertainty, and now we have a pandemic, and now it's also hitting the African American and Latino race harder than any other. So we're battling kind of two races at once. What this means, so what we've done, statewide support though, Utah can say we've done a lot of great things, which is pretty exciting. So Utah is in a lot of ways leading the way for small business support. When it came to the SBA opening up the loan, there wasn't enough personnel, and there still isn't enough personnel to get through all the applications. They're doing about 2,000 applications per minute with one business that they had the resources to do that for, but that's just one entity that's supporting it. So Utah opened up what was called a first rapid response team, put anybody tied to a chamber of commerce or a women's business center or a small business development center who needed, could support their time, put them through training. And so anytime a small business owner has a question about the small business loans that the world's talking about, they can go to, the link or the phone and, leave their message, and the rapid response team responds in a 24-hour period. And if they can't answer that question, if it's too detailed, then they have people they can escalate it to. Also, too, Salt Lake City was the first city in the country to offer small business loans to our small business owners. It was a small amount and went quite quickly. But we're the first ones to think about that. If you don't know this, Salt Lake or Utah is one of the best states to open a business. It has one of the strongest foundations of small business owners. And that is why a lot of times our state gets a lot of big corporations coming in here to work, because the state gives them a lot of opportunities or advantages to bring their corporation here. Unfortunately, small business owners don't get that same type of support. So it was really good to see that the state is focusing and aware of how small business owners are struggling right now. And then they also offered additional bridge loans to these businesses that expire today. Another service that has been offered, are y'all familiar with the show Modern Family? The dad on there, Ty Moyer or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Why do I think Moyer? I don't know. Oh, that's my son's third grade teacher. Okay. It's a crazy time right now. So he put up $100,000 of his own money to a program called Tip Your Server, which anybody in the restaurant industry could apply for a $2,000 grant. Unfortunately, and it's been great. I mean, they have over $300,000 now matched. A lot of money was raised in a short amount of time. However, you only can be in Salt Lake City to take advantage of it. And there's some rules to it that have really tied the hands of some business owners. So if you have more than 4 or 5 employees, you can only, and you get the grant, you can only choose the 5 employees that you feel are the most impacted.
I know.
And give them the money.
That's cool though. That was $100,000 of his own funds then.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, he's totally invested. He has 2 businesses downtown. So it's so great. He's leading this. But it's more like a lottery for about 40 businesses. So it can show you these examples of there's so much support and there's been so much money, and this is the biggest surplus that we've seen ever in our history from the government, but it's already gone. And only 7% of small business owners were able to capitalize on it. However, Utah is still the best place to start a business, and we're going to go over why. Oh, that was all that other stuff I already talked about. Oh, here's some other fun facts around that. So out of the $350 billion that was distributed, over 1 million loans have been given out from about over 4,000 lenders. And in Utah, 12,000 businesses received about $2 billion worth of that paycheck protecting program that I was mentioned earlier. And so that was the one that you would have to get through your banks. I'm sure it's up to like 14,000. These are like yesterday's numbers, but that's all gone. So what can we do? Well, if you're wondering if you can open a new business and be successful, you totally can. I think what this pandemic is doing for everybody, it's asking the questions and it's showing people their vulnerability in their businesses. A lot of times business owners, all the time business owners get excited about the idea and they start their business and they don't do their research and they don't pay themselves and they don't do savings and they live paycheck to paycheck. And this pandemic, I can't tell you, business owners, I'm talking to, maybe have had only a business like 2 years, but they've been in business 20 years and they have no savings and they haven't done anything. And it breaks my heart because they got caught up so much in the process of growing or building their business to be bigger or sustainable. And then they grew families and, paid for their kids and all of that. And they still live paycheck to paycheck. And if you never take the time, it's harder to go back to put these steps in place. So you guys have done a business plan. You had your students do a business plan, right, Matt?
That's what they work on the entire semester. They're wrapping up their business plan in the next couple weeks here. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, so that you guys are already ahead of the game. A business plan is so essential because it'll get you thinking about things you never would have thought about. Like I said, everyone gets excited about the idea and then they think, I only need this much money to either open a business or to pay for people. And they never think about the things like insurance or utilities, and that stuff adds up quite quickly. So these are the things that you really want to think about when you start a business. No history, like we talked about, so no trends in history. They always say, you know history, you'll be fine in the world. You won't repeat it. Well, here we are repeating it, but now with the pandemic. And then know your industry. Not just say you wanted to be a shoemaker. Don't just know what's happening in the shoe industry. Know what's happening in the clothing industry. Know what's happening in the art industry, because trends are everywhere. I can't tell you how many different businesses I follow and how many new things I learned, especially during this pandemic, of how they've been able to pivot to survive. So ways you can know your industry, and I'm sure Matt has gone over these or will, but here's just a few that we send to the direction for our clients is one, you can go to Salt Lake Public Library if you have a library card, and on their system, they have a business section. And they have business librarians where you can reserve an hour of time. And there is a system called Reference USA. And you can know the trends of what's happening in your industry, what people are looking for in Utah, what your demographic is asking for. And what's cool about it is it's free and the librarian can help you navigate through that system. And then if you want to, play around with it by yourself at home, you can. Another great resource is a Small Business Development Center. Their grant goes to I like to call it's like Google on crack. It's a status system where anything in business that has ever been put online manually, or it has been submitted electronically, they have access to, but you have to ask it questions to get the information. So if you don't feel like you have enough time in the world or aren't finding the information you need, you can ask them. Maybe you want to know, so maybe Allie, are you opening a business or you want to open your own business?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a little bit about that so I can use that as a reference?
Yeah, so I want to do my own clothing business. So I want to do like a design business of like coats is what I'm doing.
Ooh, I love coats.
Yeah, me too. I have a coat obsession. I buy way too many. So I decided I should start doing something, kind of narrow it down. At first I started with just a whole, like any type of clothing, but then to find like a good niche, I thought coats would be good.
No, and that's really smart to have a place to a starting point. So what you could do is, you know, going to the Small Business Development Center, asking them for their marketing report. You could ask, you know, what trends in the coat world, spring coats, winter coats are people in Utah looking for? Maybe you're looking to capitalize on the recreation or ski audience. And so you can ask, you know, things that work well for them, what they're looking for, or you can even ask who are the female coat designers in the country, in Utah, in the world, and they can pull all the stuff for you. And the report is free. And they'll have
That's
names.
really cool.
It's free.
Yeah.
It's truly
wow,
free.
I didn't know. That's awesome.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of either, Clancy. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I'm so envious of it. They have 14 locations in Utah. You can go to utahsbdc.gov and choose the one closest to you, schedule an appointment. Everyone's virtual right now, so even if you want to talk to them, but they can do also two things, like maybe you found a business you wanted to buy and they can do a business evaluation to see if it's, you know, but they also are connected as we are to other partnerships. So they might know of different grants or they might know of different partnerships coming up, especially if you're looking to import and export. So there's a lot of great stuff out there. So another thing you want to know, you decided to open your business. You're going to open your coat business, Allie, and you know that you've done your history. I mean, you've done your research. You know how much money you need to start up, and you decide, I don't want to pay myself because I only have enough money to run the business. Even if you pay yourself $10, pay yourself. Get in the habit of having that come out every month. With COVID-19, what we're seeing is people that went to apply for the funding, a lot of it, majority were rejected because they had no history of showing them paying themselves. They had no financial history of what their expenses were. So legally, they have their business licenses, they're paying their taxes, but there's no record of the breakdown of these expenses. And so the majority of them, just that alone, were rejected. So if you don't want to pay yourself now because you don't think of it, pay yourself now because this might not be the only pandemic. I mean, I could never have foreseen a pandemic. Felt a recession coming? Yes, most definitely. However, a pandemic, no one saw this. And so you can't plan for an emergency when it happens. And like we saw with the $350 billion, it went in 2 weeks. So just think about that. And then you want to invest in your services to support your business. So this I'm talking about is invest in a lawyer, invest in an accountant. Because if you don't know your finances, you don't know your business. And I can't tell you how many times I have clients come in and they want to grow, or they don't know where any of their money's going. And it's because they've been either embarrassed because they didn't know finances and it made them uncomfortable. So they trusted somebody else and now they don't know where all their money's going and they know they should have more. Or a lot of times when it comes around money isn't taught to us in school or anything. And there's a lot of personal shame around money. Just remember, 80% or more of all Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, which isn't a great thing to be proud of, okay? But majority of every person is one emergency away from being homeless. And so I bring that awful statistic up because majority of us don't know money. And so if you have questions around it, you shouldn't feel bad about it or insecure because you're with the majority. So being vulnerable enough to want to know what it means and what your finances are is being smart. And then, like I said, invest in the legal elements of it. And even if you go through us to, send you to one of our attorneys at no cost, make sure your business structure is the right one in place. Make sure your taxes, who's managing that, is in the right place. Just all of these things. If you have a partner, make sure you have a partner agreement in place, because you never know what's going to go south. And then if a pandemic happens or another, world crisis, you want to be everything set in place, because people react differently and you can't prepare for that when you're in it. Any questions so far?
No, this is really good. Covering some good ground, and it's also nice to have a small business discussion on our current state of events. I'm sick and tired of talking about COVID, but when we take the massive boulder that just dropped in the world of business, and we start talking about that, because I've thought about that quite a bit with this class in particular, right? I've been working with my students all semester to encourage them to go out and pursue those dreams, and to start that line, and to, get that blog or that website going or that event space. Yeah, you got this, and you should push forward those dreams. And then this happens, and I'm like, what do I tell them in a time like this, when all of a sudden independent businesses are just getting smashed left and right? So I appreciate you coming in with some nice resources on that.
And also too, what's cool about now is, it's such a historical time, because you are seeing so many subject matter experts giving their information and their knowledge for free. They're doing webinars for free. They're on Instagram for free, answering questions for free every night. Because the benefit right now that was different in 2009 is the whole world is on pause together. Majority of us are stuck in our homes. And so a lot of these people who are leaders in their industry don't want to stop teaching or leading. So they're using the internet and social media platforms to connect. So for you, Allie, if there's a designer out there, if you're not following them on Instagram or something, I would look for, your idols out there, or your mentors out there, or your dream job companies, because I bet you will find one that you can connect with online, and that will respond to you right now. And because a lot of people have all the time in the world.
Right. Everyone has all the time. So it's perfect to see who's willing. Because I've seen a lot of people giving their free seminars or their Instagram live videos or just stuff like that teaching. And it's been really helpful to watch those. So
yeah,
even though it's a tragic, terrible pandemic, it's good that some good can come out of it. Like these Zoom meetings and stuff like that. It's awesome.
Right. And it's just looking for those silver linings and those opportunities. I mean, obviously this is a terrible time and weird and tough and trying everybody, but in that, how can we reinvent ourselves? What could we do to come out better than we were going into this, which I've resigned on the fact of I don't want to go back to the old normal. The old normal sucked. The old normal was already sick to begin with. And that's my big hope, is that we go into a new normal that is vastly improved, right? Hopefully. Hopefully so.
I know, because you know how they talk about, you can manifest your future and things you put out into the universe and really come back at you. And I cannot tell you, before COVID, how many weeks I was feeling and I had said out loud to my colleagues, I really would have loved to lived as an adult in the 50s and 60s before computers and email and text and all of that, and do my job, because the pauses, right? You meet with someone, then you have to go type out a contract, and then you mail it. So it's not instant, and they're not at you constantly. And we're humans, we're not robots. And so COVID happened, and it's kind of taken us back to, yes, we're leveraging, I think, technology in the positive way that it was always intended, because it's, make or break for a lot of companies, but it's allowing us to slow down, to connect. I mean, this is the first time for me as a parent. My son is experiencing probably what childhood was like for me.
Right. every day's a Saturday, just go play.
Or, but you are bored. I mean, they're always connected to something, right? Or scheduled out. But also too, for even though I'm a business advisor, this has impacted me on a personal level, because my husband and I were starting a food truck, and we bought our food truck, and it's sitting in my driveway right now. And we just put like our Instagram, and this happened. And, talk about pivoting. And so watching the trends, it totally took our launch in a completely different direction. So a lot of people are like, oh, I'm sure you're not going to move forward. And I'm like, I'm totally moving forward. I just need to be smart about it, right? And so what we're doing is we still plan on having a launch and everything, but we wanted to crowdfund, because as a business advisor, it's really important to me to have kernel knowledge of resources out there and really see if they're attainable for the majority. And so I'm like, ooh, I really want to try crowdfunding, because I want to see if it's legit. You always hear these awesome stories, but I want to see if the work that you have to put into a campaign and the process. Well, then COVID happens, and so I think it might be a little crass to go out there and crowdfund right now when there's all these healthcare things, right?
Right.
But my passion's there, my husband's passion's there. This is our path. This is where we want to go. This is where we want to be. So started thinking. And then one day I was like, oh my gosh, I'm watching all these to-go orders. I'm like, why don't we put the food truck on pause right now, look to launch it next year, and then, get space in a commissary, because, food is still essential. So they're open. And so we're going to do that and launch by taking orders every Friday and Saturday. And so just like the takeout orders, leverage social media. So right now we just started today posting things on social media to build up our followers. And then June 1st, we're going to do that. But, it's about pivoting. It's about being flexible. It's about looking at capitalizing on, opportunities. I have clients that have a lot of adventure trips, or they're photographers, and they're like, what do I do? I'm like, well, what other, knowledge do you have? And I have this one girl or woman, she's a phenomenal photographer and travels all over the world and does these trips. But she's also worked for like 3 of the top ad agencies in the country, building web pages and all of that. So now a service she never offered, she is offering. Do you not think I'm going to take advantage of that? And so look for things that would be expensive or maybe unattainable at the launch of your business. Do research now, because you can get a lot of great work done by people you probably could not even afford, or who would want to do the work because it's live or die.
Yeah.
Clancy, I mean, on a positive note, right? The optimist would kind of say what I said earlier, that hopefully this is a good timeout for humanity, and we come out of this smarter and more compassionate and greener and all that. But the other I guess the other end of the spectrum could be in a situation like this, are we at risk, do you think, of seeing only the Subway sandwiches and McDonald's and whatever survive if this goes a long time? And how will small business react after that? I mean, we know that small business is kind of that backbone that builds the economy. But what happens if it's long enough that it gets
right? And that's since it depends honestly right now how long this will happen. Some of my clients, of course, you're going to have, first of all, businesses that will never recover from this. You just won't. I mean, you just will. I don't know what that percentage looks like. I've seen a lot of great reinventing of my clients or other businesses out there locally. What's great about Utah is it's one of the best states to have a business because they support local. They really come out for their local people. And I think this pandemic has really shown that. But on the business side, what you don't see is after the pandemic hit, some businesses might have lost 70% of their income. So then they're reinventing and they're making money through this reinvention of either gift cards or to-go orders or reinventing their business to connect with other people. And that's keeping the lights on and keeping their staff going, and which is creating a loyalty that I think people, when this is over, won't forget, and they'll boom. A positive though is I think people who never make, you talk about Matt, slowing down and making time, right? Business owners who never make the time for marketing or understanding their finances are now have nothing but time. So they are going back doing their business plans. They are coming up with marketing plans. You know, they are learning their finances. And so when this is over, they'll know how to just open their doors and go. I encourage people, if they already have followings and they have a strong foundation and they've closed their business maybe now because maybe they're a coffee truck or whatever, not to completely give up because they're just making room for someone new. You know, it's true. There's going to be opportunity for other people. In 2009, when the recession hit, people don't know this, but, or maybe you guys do, a lot of businesses that were just starting were what we're relying on right now. Slack, Dropbox, all, you know, there's like 8 other versions just like them. And venture capitalists invested in them. And here they are in the second crisis in 20 years. And those businesses that were looking to fail are winning. But when it comes to corporations like McDonald's that you mentioned, Matt, I think everyone's going to be impacted. And it's no longer about your doors opening or closing forever. It's how they operate. Some people will completely streamline the human element of their businesses to save money because they've done it right now. A lot of businesses have been fearful of trusting their people and working remote. And they've done that, and it's created a better work-life balance for people. And so they'll probably continue that. Maybe businesses that have relied more on kiosks will rely completely on technology, like other businesses in Asia do. A lot of their fast food market has no people. You walk in and it's completely automated, and you order your food. And this pandemic has shown with, you know, physical, I like to say physical distancing, because that's really what it is that if those things were in place, we could still operate on a day-to-day basis. In the long run, as long as technology is involved, the human element of our world declines of opportunity. However, that's why I think a lot more entrepreneurs here in Utah trust in it, and local people support them because they want those unique items. They want healthy, fresh food that they can trust where it comes from. They want those unique coats like you, Allie, are designing. And so don't let this inhibit you. Like I said, in 2009, when the recession hit, I was in my first corporate job. I was too young and too stupid to even know a recession hit. And I had my first child, and there was no daycare for him. I had no idea what was happening in the world. I was in this small town in Oklahoma, and I left my job in a recession. Who does that? Nobody does that. But I survived, and we will too. It's just about being aware and trusting yourself and just going forward. As long as you lean into that fear, just think about it. If everything you ever wanted was on the other side of the fear and you just lean through that, I mean, how wonderful. And so now with the pandemic, that's everybody's fear. And so how we navigate is really important. And then just the last few things on these, build your savings. After you pay yourself, build your savings. The pandemic has shown that a lot of people didn't even have the money to stay open because they were living paycheck to paycheck. And so they had to get creative of how to keep the lights on. And then connect with other people. Utah is all about who you know, and connections go a long way. And when something like this happened, a lot of people in the same industries had to rely on one another through collaborations to get their products out there to reach bigger networks so they can bring in more money just to survive. And so life might seem good for you at one point. Don't ever take that for granted, because you'll never know when this could happen. That money. So when it comes to business female owners, I'd just like to touch on this because I know there's a big population of you in Matt's class. And a lot of times coming, like we mentioned before, from a very patriarchal state, or even world, is there a place for us? Well, here's some fun facts. Just so you know, I think I'm a data person. So when I talk about data, good or bad, it makes me happy. So hopefully these aren't too negative. But while women apply for money, women receive less money when asking for loans than men. And however, we do more with less. We are more successful. We build stronger businesses. We give back more to our communities and to our families than men do. That's why the SBA, when a woman comes in to apply for an SBA loan, they're a big supporter of them, and the approval rating is actually higher through them, because the statistics have shown that women are better at being small business owners or leaders. They're more collaborative. They care about solving the problem and bringing people together versus being territorial and trying to, patent everything and trademark and own everything. And so these are a lot of big wins for you. And here in Utah, being a big entrepreneurial state, we are one of the largest demographics for women in small business growth. Us in Tennessee have been the top 2 for the last few years, and we're just doing amazing, amazing things. So yeah, there's a place for you. So just own it.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm broadcasting here from the Rose Park neighborhood, right? And 15 years ago, moving to Salt Lake and whatever, the reputation of this neighborhood and whatever, not always the best. But, when I spent my time at Local First Utah, I got to know Lucy Cardenas of the Red Iguana. And you want to talk about like the impact a local business can make on a neighborhood, right? The Red Iguana is like a big part of the reason that tracks got routed up North Temple in the first place to its airport line. They've been a big part in rebuilding the North Temple district. I know it's still struggling a little, but if it weren't for people like Lucy, like this neighborhood would have like it wouldn't have the kind of the pride and the soul that it does. Used it a lot out here.
I know. Are you familiar with Buzz Coffee? Trina Perez, who has Buzz Coffee. It's a coffee truck, and they're her main focus is the Rose Park area. She has a lot of pride for that as well, and her future plans is to open a brick and mortar, but she has a really successful coffee truck there.
Well, we need a couple more coffee shops out this way.
Oh my gosh, let me tell you, we have so many coffee places. That is like the majority of clients that come in, either people that want to open coffee places or pizza places.
Good. Tell them move to the west side. East side's saturated.
I know, but you know what? The Rose Park real estate is starting to get expensive.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that.
Good old gentrification.
So, did I answer all the questions? I think I did, but do you have any more, or are you guys curious about anything that we've talked about or brought up? Allie, do you still want to open a business?
Yeah, I'm actually excited, more excited now, like having like seen that there's resources and knowing that it's possible. I'm like more excited. It's a lot of work, but why do you think Utah's really big in businesses? Because I know that they say like Provo and that area is like the small Silicon Valley. Is it just because of the great resources and everything?
Well, when it comes, like I said, the small business ownership here has been a really strong foundation. And it's like our country. You always hear about, during campaign times, how our foundation is our small business owners, right? But they're never really financially supported. But it's true because, they really financially don't inhibit or strap the government financially. And they offer unique things, and they're tuned into the needs of their state and their communities. And so you're really getting this amazing quality of products and food. And I don't know if it's just because Utah we're a very creative state. We have a lot of people who live at home, have turned hobbies into businesses. But it's just grown more and more. And, the world is changing. We say that all the time, but Utah now is changing. We're having so many people move from out of state we're having, the canvas of what the state is seemed to be viewed as from the outside world, it's drastically changing. And so with that, people are looking for new things. I mean, one of the things is, when I was at corporate America, if we tried to recruit someone that was any race but white, they didn't want to, they loved the company, they loved the teams, but when they would come out here, they're like, where can I get my hair cut? Where's my food, right? And so some of the chambers have gotten together and they created a website called Living Color. So say I'm American and I want to know where I can get my hair cut or find some food from my culture, I can go to Living Color and it will list all these things. So we're starting to change, and it's bringing new opportunities, but small businesses is really the foundation. And so when the tech industry moved in here, they did so because of that strong foundation. The state could offer them incentives that they don't small business owners, like the Amazons of the world, right, where they pay no taxes. And so they do. And that's why now we have Silicon Slopes, because opportunity was too good to turn down. And so as long as the tech bubble doesn't burst here, we have a really strong economy still. And so these people work all the time and they don't want to cook their food or clean their houses, and they want to have a luxury experience. And another fun fact is, a lot of people don't know this, but Utah has the highest density of millennials anywhere in the country. And millennials love experiences. And so if you're in that industry, millennials also want customized things at a lower price. So for you, Allie, if you create customized jackets at affordable rates, that could be a huge niche for you. So there are a lot of millennials here. So I hope that answered your question.
It did, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'd agree, and kind of back up on that too and say that I think independent business does well in Utah, partially just because of our historic isolation. We brother and sister city with anybody nearby. We've been so out kind of on our own that it kind of brought that independent mentality, I think, to a lot of Utah society. And maybe nowadays, just strong economy and a high education rate too, right? There's a pretty high education rate along the Wasatch Front, and I don't know, there's some unique things that just make it good. But I think a lot of it has to do a little bit with our isolation. We're kind of this island, a metropolitan island in the U.S., and that's why a lot of new companies like to test their products or services in markets like Salt Lake specifically, is because it's an isolated city, with its own little culture. So advantages.
Yeah, so that's why I say right now, I mean, our tech is still strong, and because a lot of them have been able to leverage working from home. And so it's still a good time to move forward. Now, do I think it's still to be determined if real estate will drop or any of those things, because we're not seeing that. I know some small business owners are thinking, if I wait, I can get better deals on rent and all of that. We're not seeing that. And I think that's where the tech influence is really impacting those type of trends that you normally would have seen 20 years ago, right? So the longer this goes on will really dictate what's happening. I mean, I just saw the saddest thing, the farmer's market, is doing a campaign that says save the farmer's market. And they've been around 30 years. So I know a lot of my clients make the majority of their yearly income in that farmer's market. And so the longer this goes, things like that can't open. And so we really don't know what direction it's going to go for us.
Well, I think we ended our last class when we had our face-to-face. I don't know if it was this class or another, but I was musing on the Darwinian principle, right? It's not the fastest or the richest or the strongest or whatever. It's those most willing to adapt. And that's small business survival. It's personal survival, personal growth through this time. It's, we don't need to have the biggest stockpile of TP or the most money or whatever, but if we can adapt, to situations, we can come out of this better.
So they say cockroaches survive everything, right?
Cockroaches and glitter.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I hadn't heard that one. I love that. That's even better because glitter's at least pretty.
Yeah. I'm dad to a 13-year-old daughter, so I mean, I've still got glitter, like, my hair. It's really,
Yeah, you can't get away from it.
yeah.
No, so it's a good time as long as you stay educated, stay vulnerable, stay tuned into what you want to do and trust yourself. And like Matt said, know how to adapt. Because yeah, you're right. You just see people, and some will just sit here and wait it out, and then try to ramp up, and they'll be behind a learning curve. And there's others who are still reaching out through this process, and have built new relationships, and opportunities that they didn't think could exist, are existing. And so you just don't know. So don't be afraid to try.
Awesome. Well, Clancy, thanks so much for taking time
Always.
and addressing all of this. Right on time, really, for discussions and things that I think a lot of us have been thinking about. So thank you.
You're welcome, and don't hesitate to reach out to us. Our whole team's remote right now, so if you have questions, go ahead and email us. My email is just my first name, Clancy, Clancy, at wbcutah.org, and we'll definitely follow up.
Awesome. All right, and for anybody that's made it this far in the recorded video, I am going to also post a link to a survey. It's a feedback form that the WBC uses to measure their progress and outreach. So even for those of you watching the recorded version of this, please take time. It's like a 2-minute form, 1-minute form. Send that through just as a way to thank Clancy and their team for taking time for us.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Allie.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Allie.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys.
Okay. See ya.